Hello Year 10s. Now, last week I asked you to do some market research and in particular to create some surveys to find out customer views or potential customer views on your three different business ideas. Now, I must admit the surveys that I've been sent are of quite variable quality, and I want to give this another week and for you to spend more time on it because it's really, really important. Okay. Remember when we sent out questionnaires to the different businesses that you were writing to for coursework 1, and how later on you got answers back that weren't quite as detailed perhaps in some cases as you wanted, or you realised that there were questions that you perhaps should have asked that you didn't ask. So I think it's really important that we spend some time on this part of the coursework before moving on, so that you know that the data you've got is good. Market research is really, really important for this coursework because in your market research, it shows that you have researched the feasibility, how reasonable your three ideas are before you actually end up making a decision about which idea to develop into your business plan. Now, you might already know which of your three ideas you want to go forward with, but you need to back that up with market research. And for that reason, your market research needs to be good. Also, your market research should actually be helping you to reach that informed decision about which idea you're developing. And also your market research should be something that you then use later on in your coursework to help to inform the decisions that you make later on in your business plan. When you've picked your idea, when you know which one you're going with, and when you're then making decisions about prices, when you're making decisions about how you're promoting your idea, and so on and so forth. So market research at this stage is really important. Now, of course, you can do more market research later on, but the more and better quality that your market research is now, the less market research you'll need to do later on in the coursework. Okay, and your market research overall should include both market research into potential customers and also market research into the competitors that you might have for your business idea. Now, I've seen already that some of you have done some really good initial market research into competitors. That you can do more of later on as you decide on which idea you're going with. But this week, I want us to focus particularly on more market research with potential customers. So this market research into potential customers is so important that I've spent a whole morning putting together this document here, which I'm going to go through now, having looked at the surveys that some of you have sent me, and I'm giving you another week this week to work on improving your surveys and sending them out to a wider range of people. And I'm going to go through that with you now. And then also I'm going to be available for a Q&A session at 12 o'clock on Tuesday for you to ask me any questions you have about your market research surveys. So let's go through this document. You need to ask yourself three important questions. Firstly, have I sent my survey to the people who represent my target market? I've noticed from the list of people that some of you have sent your surveys to that you're sending them out basically to your group of friends, but are your friends really the target market that you're aiming at? Second question, are my survey questions going to give me quality data to help me make the decisions I need to make? Okay, you need to write really good quality survey questions in order to get good quality data. And thirdly, do people really understand what my survey is about and why I'm doing it? I've noticed, because you've copied me in on emails, that some of you have sent out emails to friends saying, please answer these surveys, and you haven't given any explanation at all about what the surveys are about. Okay, so those are the three questions you need to ask yourselves. And the tasks that I'm setting you for this week are to read the advice from this document that I've sent you, and I'm making this video now because I know some of you will skim through it but won't read it, but hopefully you'll watch this video. Okay, think carefully about who your target market is, and you need to select a representative sample of that target market who you can send that survey to, and that should be a minimum of 20 people, and I would say preferably more than 20, preferably say double that, but 20 is a minimum. Thirdly, refine and rewrite your survey, your questions, so that you're confident that you'll get really good quality data from them. And please send me that survey before you send it out to other people. So some of you have written surveys, some of you might feel those are fine, but I would suggest that you still look at them and try to tweak them, having read this information that I've given you here. And fourthly, to go with your survey, you need to write a well-worded explanation that you can put in an email so that people know why you're asking them to do a survey, what it's all about. So, surveying the right people. You should only be using your friendship group as a survey group if your target market is 14 and 15-year-olds. If your target market extends beyond that, even if you're aiming your ideas mainly at 14 or 15-year-olds, are they your only target market? What about younger people? What about older people? And so you shouldn't just be surveying people your own age unless your product is so specific that it's only aimed at people of your age. Also, a lot of you are girls. If you are girls and you're only surveying girls, what about boys? Are boys not in your target market? If they are in your target market, you should be surveying some boys, not just girls. You should be sending your survey out to a representative sample then of your target market, not just one subgroup within your target market. So think about the range of different people that might be interested in buying the product that you're talking about selling, and send out your survey accordingly. And nobody's expecting you to survey hundreds of people, but the more people you survey, the more quality data you'll get, and the better quality that data is likely to be. So, how are you going to go about finding a wider sample group to answer your survey? It's important to think about this. There are ways to do it. I realise we're still in a lockdown situation where you can't necessarily go out and see lots of people and where you're not in school, but nevertheless there are plenty of ways in which you can get that survey out to lots of people. So if your primary target market really is 14 and 15-year-olds, then don't just send it out to friends. Send your survey out to other acquaintances in year 10. Try to think about the different sorts of people in that age group within what you would consider to be your target market, and make sure that each of those is represented by at least one person in what we call your sample group, in other words, the people that you're sending your survey out to. Your target market really ought to be a wider age group, because I can't believe really that your product is so specific that it's only aimed at 14 and 15-year-olds. Okay, so think about, do you know people in other year groups that you could send the survey to? Do you or your friends have older or younger siblings who could answer the survey? Have you got friends or followers on social media that are different ages to you? Make sure that you include these people in your survey, not just your close friends. And it might well be, it's quite possible that your survey might need to go to some adults as well, because you would be imagining that your business would be selling to adults, not just teenagers. Okay, if that's the case, you need to include some adults in your sample group. So those could be your teachers, they could be family members and friends, or friends of the family, they could be neighbours, they could be adults that you or your family members know through social media. So there should be plenty of different channels for you to explore for finding different sets of people to send this survey to. Don't just send it to friends. Okay? And the other thing is that if your different product ideas have different target markets, then each survey that you do, if you're doing 3 surveys, 1 for each product idea, each of those should be sent out to a different group of people. There might be overlapping groups, but if you've got different target markets, you should be aiming each survey at the target market for that product, for that idea. Okay, so that's a little bit about how to select your group that you're going to send your survey to. It shouldn't just be friends. It should be a wider group than that. Okay, so next question is about writing your survey. So you've selected your better group of people, and can you just send then the surveys that you created and showed me last week? Could you just send those to a different group of people, perhaps a bigger group of people, and then, hey presto, you've done your work for this week? No, don't do that, because I think that all of the surveys I've seen can be improved and they should be improved. If you improve your survey, if you put in the work to make it better, you will get better quality data, which will help you to produce a better piece of coursework. Don't forget that time when you were sending out questionnaires to businesses for coursework 1, and perhaps partly down to my own fault, you sent out questionnaires that didn't include all the questions that you really needed to answer, that you really needed to find out about. And then some of you have then sent out further questionnaires or contacted the people again to ask more questions. Okay, don't make the same mistake again with this one. So spend time making a really good survey. Remember, this is for your coursework, which is worth 30% of your overall BTEC grade. If you don't get a high grade in this coursework, then you can't get a high grade in the BTEC. And don't feel like the surveys that you sent out last week are a waste of time. It's not a waste of time. It's a learning opportunity. It's a way of seeing how people responded to those questionnaires and then seeing how you can improve on those questions in order to get better, more reliable data next time. So I've got some key points for making sure that you've got a good survey now, and I'm going to go through those in some detail. Start by thinking about the decisions that you need to make and shape your questions around those decisions. Don't just think, right, I'm making a cookie business, so I'm going to make a quick questionnaire about cookies. Think about the things that you need to know in order to make your business a success. So you might, if you're doing a cookie business, want to ask about favourite flavours. You definitely want to find out about how much people would expect to pay for your cookies. You almost certainly want to find out how regularly they might want to buy cookies from you and how many cookies they buy at a time. Are they just buying one at a time? Are they looking to buy a bag of 5 cookies at a time? You could ask them where they currently get their cookies from at the moment, because that'll help you to understand a bit more about who you're competing with. And also you need to be thinking about where you're planning on selling those cookies, the location, and checking with your customers, with your potential customers, whether that location is suitable in one way or another through your survey. And of course you might have more than one location, but you need to explore that in your survey. Second thing is, make sure that you plan your questions around your business idea. Don't expect your survey respondents to effectively design your business for you. Don't expect them to understand what's in your head. Tell them through the questions what's in your head about your business, okay, having thought carefully about it, and then hopefully you'll get better answers to your questions. Third point, I've seen in the surveys that you've sent me so far a lot of open questions, too many open questions. Don't use an open question when a closed question could effectively get you the same sorts of answers. Here's what I mean by open and closed questions then. What's your favourite flavour of cookie? With a space for people to type an answer in. That's an open question, okay? But a closed question would be, which one of the following cookie flavours would you be most likely to buy? And then giving a list of different options for people to choose from. Okay, if you ask 20 people the open question, then you may well get 20 different answers which you then need to interpret. For example, somebody could write chocolate chip, somebody else might write milk chocolate, somebody else might just say chocolate. Are those all referring to the same type of cookie, or are they talking about different sorts of cookies? The truth is that you don't know from those answers you've given. Whereas if you've got the different options that I've suggested, then you know exactly what sort of cookie that person is referring to. Also, it's going to be easier to analyse, and in fact, if you're using Microsoft Forms, it will do the analysis for you. It'll give you the graphs. And also, if you leave an open question, you might get some stupid open answers. Like somebody might say, Marmite and anchovy is my favourite type of cookie. They're probably joking. They're probably not really telling the truth, but that's never going to be a flavour that you're going to offer as part of your business, I don't think. So it's better to have closed options, because then people will give sensible answers. And by all means, do add another option. It's true that my question there that I've given doesn't allow people to say that their favourite type of cookie ever, the only type of cookie they would ever consider buying, is a peanut butter and marshmallow cookie, because that's not one of the options I've given. If that bothers you, if you want to give people more options, then add an other option and then perhaps follow it up with a please specify what that other would be. Okay, but you don't need to do that. There's nothing wrong with giving a set of choices and saying which of these would be your favourite. Okay, and that's much easier. Even better, I think a creative entrepreneur who's passionate about launching an exciting new cookie business, not just a business that sells the same sorts of cookies as everybody else, would actually start by coming up with some exciting new flavours to put to their potential customers. Maybe not Marmite and anchovy, but maybe the peanut butter and marshmallow. And so they would come up with some interesting flavours and then put those flavours to their customers rather than just the bog standard normal ones. So their question might look more like this. Which of the following cookie flavours would you most likely buy? Apple and cinnamon honeycomb, raspberry white chocolate meringue, wickedly dark chocolate orange and ginger, or none of these flavours? Are your mouths watering yet with those potential flavours? They're much more interesting flavours than the milk chocolate chip, white chocolate chip, bog standard supermarket varieties. So think about whether you can come up with ideas that are different from the standard. Okay, so that's point 3. Closed questions are much better than open questions. Okay, even so, I've seen some closed questions that people have written that, to be honest, are absolutely rubbish. Okay, I've got to be honest, rubbish answers, particularly those ones that are to do with, for example, price per cookie, where they've just offered 2 options. So how much would you pay per cookie? £1 or £2.50? That's not a good closed question. Okay, why have these 2 particular prices been chosen? What if someone is willing to pay more than £1 for a cookie, but not as much as £2.50? What if somebody else would only buy cookies for less than £1? I would say for prices, you ought to give price ranges rather than just a selection of one-off prices. And you should have at least 3 or 4 choices, not 10 choices, that's too many, but at least 3 or 4 choices for these sorts of questions. So here's a better example. How much would you pay per cookie? Under £1, £1 to £1.49, £1.50 to £1.99, or £2 and over. Okay, so there's different choices there that people can choose from, and there's something that everybody can choose from there. Nobody can say, well, my choice of price isn't covered there. And if you suspect beforehand that most people will be in that £1 to £1.49 bracket, then it might be worth subdividing that. Your brackets don't have to be equal size, so you could put a bracket in that's £1 to £1.24, and then another one that's £1.25 to £1.49, and see how my prices don't overlap at all. I'm not saying £1 to £1.50 and then £1.50 to £2, because then those overlap. They shouldn't overlap. Next point, do include 1 or 2 open questions, but don't include more than 1 or 2 open questions unless there's very specific reasons for including another open question. But those open questions should give people a chance to express their opinions or ideas. Don't make them too general. So don't just write a question that says, do you have anything else you'd like to tell me? Okay, a better example would, do you have any other suggestions for my cookie business? For example, flavours or special offers that would encourage people to buy from me. Or you might want to have an open question where if somebody's answered, I don't want any of these flavours, you could follow that up with a question that says, if you answered none of these flavours, please give a reason for that. Okay, so sometimes you might have extra open questions that are tied in with one of the closed questions that comes just before it. Finally, on this thing of writing the survey, when you've written your survey questions, check each question and option through carefully. I've seen survey questions that have been sent to me this week that have had duplicated questions, that have had duplicated options, that have had typos in them. Okay, if you send out a badly worded, badly put together questionnaire, then people won't spend lots of time on it and they'll get confused by it. So read through it carefully, make sure it makes sense to you and covers everything you want to find out. And then once you've checked it yourself, get some other people to check it, get somebody else in your family to check it, or by all means send it out to a handful of friends to say, can you check that this works for me? and that all the questions make sense, and then send it out to your wider group. And send it to me as well so that I can see it and give you feedback on it. So can we now just fire those off in an email? Well, yes, you can, but think about how you write that email. Don't just write an email that contains the link to your survey and not much else that says, here's a survey I've written, can you answer it please? Okay, you should be writing a short, polite email telling people what your business idea is and why you're sending out the survey. Okay, so something like this. Hello, for my BTEC Enterprise coursework, I have to write a business plan for a micro enterprise that I could run. As part of this, I need to research 3 different ideas for my enterprise. I would be very grateful if you could consider answering the attached survey, or surveys if you're sending them more than one survey, of just 6 questions. Obviously, you'll need to change that depending on how many questions you've got in your survey to help me with my research. I'm sending this to you because I think you would fit into the target market for my enterprise idea. Some of you are talking about dog walking, so you'd say, I'm sending this survey to you because I know that you've got a dog. Okay? Then you go on, my enterprise idea is, or my enterprise ideas are, and give a little bit of detail, not loads, but maybe a sentence about each of your ideas to explain what your idea is. Do let me know if you don't understand any of the questions or have any comments that you could include, that you can't include in your answers. That will give you back extra data and also will help you with a later part of the coursework, which is to review your plan and your pitch. So you get good feedback on how well you did on this part of the coursework. And then finish it off with thank you in advance for taking the time to answer my survey or surveys if you're sending them more than one. And then sign it off with your name. Please don't just copy and paste what I've typed there and send it off without having changed anything. That's what Conservative MPs have been accused of doing recently when they've sent a reply to somebody who's written a letter to them and it's been very clear that they've just copied and pasted what Number 10 Downing Street have sent them. Okay, or they've left out bits which they should have deleted as appropriate. So by all means use my email as a template, but make sure you personalize it, make sure that you take out the unnecessary brackets and so on, and that you fill in the gaps. Okay, so you've got another week to spend concentrating your surveys. You should be spending a decent amount of time doing that, and then also starting to collate the data that you get from the surveys. Make sure that you send it out to people who are going to be part of your target market, not just your friends. I can't say that enough times. And make sure that your survey questions are really good quality survey questions that follow the principles I've gone through in this video and are in this document that I'm attaching to the assignment, so that then we know that we've got quality data to work with. Don't forget, this data is really important to you for making sure that you can produce a really good piece of coursework. So let's put the time and effort into this that it deserves. I will be available on Teams for a Q&A for anybody who wants to join that at 12 o'clock today, and I'll send out an invitation to join that.